I'm Trishti Benedictus. This video is going to explain what my channel, uh, I'm 50 Now What, is about. Um, to sum it up before I tell you my story of where I was at, where I'm at now, and where I want to be, let me just tell you that the channel's going to contain videos, various different videos of my journey to get to to the goal, to hopefully accomplish the goal I want to accomplish, and I'll explain that in a little later. Also, I would like to have some family members, interview them, as well as maybe feature some family members with their goals and their journeys, because I think my family's pretty interesting. Um, I'm 50 years old. I just turned 50 in July. Um, I have somewhat of a baby face, but what it is that um, I've always been very physical, been into working out and stuff like that from the time I was a kid. I had a stepfather who showed me in weightlifting, so I got the bug with weightlifting. Uh, when I was 22, I actually worked for, to give you an idea how long ago it was. I was I worked for Jack Lane's, and I was a trainer for Jack Lane's in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey. Um, but I'm jumping a little bit here. So I'm very new at this whole thing. So I'm going to learn how to edit stuff. As I go along, you can take the journey with me trying to figure out how to do stuff. You can help me. We'll have a Q&A where you can comment, ask me questions and stuff like that. And I'll have videos on answering some of the questions. So my story starts where I was born with a birth defect that I inherited from my mom. My mom had very bad legs, very bad knees. And apparently the female inherits this. I don't know the technical name or term for what I have. Um, but the female apparently has to do with the female skeletal system, but the female inherits it, and each generation it gets worse. Now, what my mom had, the surgeries she had, um, they don't even do anymore. They cause arthritis, and my mother did wind up with arthritis, and she wound up with a knee replacement. Hers was pretty bad. She had her legs would constantly pop out, dislocate, and it got to the point where she couldn't. Her legs could not stand the weight of her pregnancy with my brother. So, hence, I got it. Didn't know I had it until I was around 11. I'm going to say 10, 11, I started complaining about my legs bothering me. So, my mother didn't say nothing. Go to the doctor, didn't think anything of it. Then I hit in my teens, later teens, I'm going to say 15, I really started complaining about my legs. My mother brought me to an orthopedic. And they weren't going to do anything about it because what was happening is my legs would pop out. I would roll over and it would feel like my kneecap would roll all the way to the back. I mean, it literally felt like my kneecap was rolling to the back of my leg. I have it predominantly in my right leg. Well, not anymore because I had a total knee replacement. But we'll get to that. But I had it predominantly in my right leg because I'm a righty. I have it in my left leg, but it's not not as bad as my right leg. So I was very physical. I didn't play sports, so to say, but I was just a very physical kid, and I didn't sit still. And it got to the point where my leg would go out from underneath me, or I'd hurt myself. But one time we were in I think it was Yankee Stadium, and we were going up the escalator, and my leg went out from underneath me. It just went dead. And I went down on the escalator and hit the very corner of the step on the escalator, and my leg blew up like a balloon. We had to go home, thank God, I never ever, not until recent years, did I ever have to have fluid, as a kid, have fluid removed from my leg. The muscles would absorb the fluid, but I would always constantly have fluid on my leg from the swelling, from hurting myself. So my mother took me to many trips to the orthopedic, and the orthopedic says we're not going to do anything because she's still growing, and she has a 50-50 chance of growing out of this. So my mother says, well, she can't live like this because, you know, she's active. And the doctor says, well, she's going to have to. She just can't go anywhere by herself. Because she's gonna hurt herself. God forbid she falls and she's by herself. So now we're getting into, now I think I was 17. I wound up having surgery on each leg in 1 year. One leg done and the other leg done. And the surgery they don't even do anymore. But they took out the kneecap. They shaved the back of it down because it was rough from constantly popping out. And they fanned out my quadriceps. I remember that was very painful. I had one of those I hate them, the leg immobilizers. They still have them out there. They still look the same. Leg immobilizer with this roll of surgical cotton that was hard as a rock pressed against my quadriceps so that they wouldn't grow back together. They were fanned out. And I remember the actual scabs actually came to the surface. It went from my knee up to my thigh. My hip. So I had one on each leg. Then when I was 17, I had both knees done at the same time. I'll never forget that. And the very next day, not even 12 hours after my surgery, and I didn't have leg braces on either at the time. They had just had surgical cotton wrapped around both legs. Physical therapy came to my room. They says, you're learning how to walk. So each time I had surgery, basically had to learn how to walk because I had major surgery. Now this time I have both legs done, and they took me to physical therapy, and they just put that belt around me, put me on the bars, and just picked me up and says, you're going to walk. You're not going to sit still. So, made it through that. And then I've always had physical jobs. I worked for the cable company. I climbed telephone poles, carried heavy ladders, was on my knees. It bothered me, but again, I was always into working out, exercising. I always liked to get into bodybuilding. I've always wanted to get into bodybuilding. Never really totally did. To give you an idea, when I was 22, I actually worked for Jack LaLanne's. I was a trainer for Jack LaLanne's in Angle Cliffs, New Jersey. So now I'm working for a utility company where I'm working on a jackhammer, I'm working on the trucks, I'm digging, I'm rolling around in dirt and everything, carrying heavy things. And I was good. It bothered me. It would pop out if I made the wrong move. But it was starting to bother me. This is in 2000. I was 32 when I started working for the utility company. I'm still working for the utility company. So I never had a problem. But then it started to take longer for me to recover from long days or overnights, because sometimes I worked nights, and eventually I went steady nights. So I worked from 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 11 o'clock at night. Sometimes I didn't go home to 8 o'clock in the morning if there was, if we had something we had to do. An emergency of some sort. So now, again, I says, I got to do something because I'm starting to feel it, right? I'm in my 30s. I was on the trucks for 6 years. So then I went into management in 2005. And now I'm managing the people, watching them, doing the work that I used to do, and behind a desk. So I'm not as active. And I always knew that I had to keep my legs strong, or else it was just going to progress that much faster. And I've always known eventually was going to have a knee replacement. Eventually, the wear and tear on my legs was going to just be too much because of what I had. I was going to need to have a knee replacement due to the I was going to have arthritis, and I started to get arthritis in my legs because in 2005 I went into management. Then it started to bother me. It started bothering me sitting in the chair so long. It would bother me sitting in the car for any length of time. Would bother me. Not the dislocating, but it got to the point where in 2009 I finally had more surgery, and that surgery was not successful. I had complications from that surgery, where I had it caused more damage to my femur, and I had to fix that problem. But it was always a Band-Aid. It was always a Band-Aid. All these surgeries I've had was always a Band-Aid. So now I'm at 2 surgeries on each leg when I was a kid, right? Now I'm in 2009. I have a surgery on my right leg, and I was paralyzed. They told me you're going to be paralyzed. So I wore a hinged brace for a long time, but it didn't heal for, a year, maybe a little over a year. But I had to wear the hinged brace where it locked, because I was told you're going to be paralyzed. I'm going to be severing this muscle to do what I need to do. And that's why they when they do joint surgeries, to get to where they need to get to, they got to cut nerves and muscles and ligaments. And what happens is you get all the scar tissue. And that's what happened to me. But the surgery was bad. So now I was constantly feeling like I had an electrical charge going through my leg. And I was always exercising, living on my own. When you're living on your own, you work out, you do your things. You got all the time in the world, right? So when I was home, I always worked out, and I was sometimes in my best shape when I was single. Go figure that one out. What had happened is that now I says, this is ridiculous. The doctor talked me into the shots, the shots, and it's one every week for 3 weeks. And by the time I was ready for the next shot, right, I was in so much pain for the whole week. It was so painful for me. But because what was happening to me before I even had the shots, I would move a wrong way, or wake up in the middle of the night and felt like something was getting caught. My kneecap was getting caught. It was weird. And it wound up being that I had anchors in my kneecap, fell through, dug a groove in my femur. So it did damage. So I went to another orthopedic. We didn't know what the issue was at the time, but I knew something was going on. So I went to another orthopedic. So he says, well, here's the thing. We're going to have to realign your leg because the weight is on the outside of your leg. We're going to recenter your leg, recenter the weight on your leg. And what we're going to do is an osteotomy. Now, if I can figure out I have copies of the x-rays they basically I had a high tibial tubercle transfer. So they took the top of my tibia, they cut it off at an angle, pivoted, but they also shaved the front of my shin, put a bone graft in to lift the kneecap up so that it wasn't just sitting on the joints. Your knee is composed of 3 compartments. You had your patella, your tibia, and your femur, right? Those are the 3 compartments of your knee. And so they would just take the knee, they put the bone graft in to lift to take the ligaments, so it lifted the kneecap up a little bit. They cleaned the kneecap up. There was really not much left. I have pictures of the kneecap, so arthritic, it was orange. It was like a reddish orange. It's so arthritic. The arthritis was in my kneecap, really, really bad. The arthritis set in. And so then they put my tibia back together with 2 screws that went straight through. That took me a long time to recover from, right? I was out of work for 3 months, then I went back to work, but much sooner than I should have. But I sit behind a desk. So then after a year, it was bothering too much. I was the screw. The doctor says it usually happens a lot of times right away, but it was because the screws were so close to the surface of the skin. There's really not much fat there to cushion between your skin and your bone. So what happened is that I needed to have the screws removed, right? So now my leg was still not 100% healed after a year. It was like almost like a fracture still at this point. So the doctor took the screws out. I had the surgery, very simple surgery, took the screws out, and he says, yeah, I'd like to is it all right if I do arthroscopic so that I can see how well the knee is healing? So it was healing really well. They had to, what they call, fracture my femur and my kneecap to promote bone growth, to promote blood flow so that the bone would fill in where the groove was in my femur, and also where I had the anchor taken out, that fell out of my kneecap. When they took the kneecap out, the anchor fell right out. That's what made the groove in my femur. That's where the pain was coming from. So I'm not active. I'm constantly trying to work out, but I can't because I've always had these setbacks. Did I always have a problem with my weight? No. I never had a problem with my weight. The reason why I would put on the highest I've been, I think, was 165. And I'm only 5'3", so 165 is a lot for me. And the lowest I've ever been was 129, and that was when I was going through a divorce. It was 129 pounds. I was too skinny. 135 is perfect. I think I look perfect at 135. So what happened is I had the screws taken out, but he didn't put a bone graft in. He says I want it to fill in on its own. So you have to be very careful because you could snap your leg right in half because the original surgery is not completely healed yet. Did that. Did all that, right? Then the arthritis just got really, 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 really bad. So then I went back to the orthopedic, and he just went and did a Roto-Rooter job. He just cleaned out as much arthritis as he can. And it just sounded like I had rocks in it was my right leg. This is my right leg. So he did arthroscopic surgery to clean out the arthritis in my leg. He says, that's it. There's nothing left. Now it's quality of life. It's now you saying that you're done. He goes, because I'm telling you, your leg's done. It's done. There's nothing more we could do. You need a knee replacement, but it's when you're ready. And I says, I'm in my 40s. I don't want it. The reason why they did the osteotomy instead of a knee replacement, because they wanted me to get into my 50s, because they said you're not going to get the life expectancy out of the knee replacement because you're just way too active. So they want knee replacements are made for people who are older and not as active. So I don't know if I'm ever going to not be as active because I bounce off the walls at all times. So all these, from the time I had the osteotomy, this was really to buy me some time. They were trying to buy me 5 years. I was 45, that's why. Buy me 5 years. I'm sorry, they wanted to get 10 years, so I was at least 55 before I had a knee replacement. Well, fast forward 5 years, right? Now, I'm in 2016, right? February of 2016, I finally gave in and had a total knee replacement. And that was the best thing I could have done. I mean, it was a really, really, really hard recovery because I had, in a matter of from 2009 to 2016, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 surgeries. 2 of those surgeries being reconstructive surgery. So I had so much. So now we're at the 5th surgery, which is the knee replacement. And I had because I had the osteotomy, it was a little bit more complicated too, they told me. It was a little bit more involved. So because I had so much scar tissue, my leg wouldn't bend. And they kept telling me, they kept giving me a week. I want your leg to bend to this certain degree, or else you're going to have what they call manual manipulation. And of course, I looked videos up of manual manipulation, and that is when they put you under anesthesia and they force the leg or whatever joint. I've seen it on any part of the body. But what manual manipulation is, they sedate you and they just force that body part to bend, move, stretch, whatever you want to do. And I says, that ain't happening to me. I made it. My physical therapist, I became very good friends with my physical therapist, and eventually she says it was like hitting a brick wall every time she tried bending my leg, and she knew I was trying. She knew when I said I wasn't going to give up, I wasn't going to give up. So, I eventually got it, and the doctor was very happy with it, and I'm still keep stretching my leg. And they actually told me that my leg bends farther than most people that have had knee replacements. So I'm happy with that. But let me go back 2.5 years. 2.5 years ago. Right, we're now in it's just a little over two. It's almost going to be 3 years. December 18th will be 3 years. So let's go back to December 18th. Let's go back to December 13th of 2013. I got married. I have a beautiful wife. And we got married and legally married. And 5 days later, traveled to Columbus, Ohio State Wexner Medical Center. I donated my kidney. My mother needed a kidney. I was not a match, and she did not, only because her antibodies were too high. I, being O positive, it was her. It was her antibodies were too high, and so I didn't match her. So if they would have put my kidney in her, her body would pick it up as a foreign thing and just attack it, and it wasn't going to survive no matter what they did, and they have so many things that they could do. So my mother didn't qualify for the waiting list because of her age, and she had medical issues. And there are people that need kidneys that are so sick that they just don't qualify for transplant at all. So it took 2 years so what we did what was called the kidney pairing program. So I guaranteed my mother a kidney. I said I will give my kidney to a total stranger, whoever they match me to in the United States. And somebody was kind enough to do the same thing because they had somebody they loved that needed a kidney, so they gave up their kidney to whoever, and one of them wound up being my mother. So with that, I was part, and I'm going to say it's an honor and a privilege to actually be part of this, of a 16-way kidney exchange. So it took 8 people willing to donate to a stranger and 8 people in need of a kidney to make this chain complete, where everybody matched. Somebody matched somebody. So it was a 16-way kidney exchange. So because my mother lives in Ohio, we did it in Ohio. But it took 2 years to get to that point. So now we're at December 18th, 2013. 7-week recovery that they wouldn't allow me to travel back to New Jersey, right? So my wife was my mother and my caregiver while we were in Ohio. And that was an experience within itself. So that was another setback, right? You can't lift, push, or pull more than 5 pounds until they tell you you're allowed to do that. And even after that, it's only a little at a time, and very uncomfortable because of where the incision is right at your pant. Well, each hospital does it differently, but where I had it, I look like I have in the trailer for the video, for the channel, I showed where I had my incisions. That looks like they took my right kidney. They leave you with the strongest of the two. And my strongest kidney was my left kidney, so they took my right kidney. They normally take your left kidney, but they took my right kidney. So I have 3 incisions from here down my side. It looks like knife wounds, really what they look like. And then one right under my belly, below my belly button at my pants line. We're going to say about that long, maybe a little longer. And that was very raw for a very long time. So, so I had to recover from that, and it took me a long time to recover from that. You can't lift it or anything. So that was another reason why I really had my setback with not being that physical. So now, go forward now, 2016, February 2016, I had a total knee replacement. I was waking up and my knee was huge. Huge. It used to be at the end of the day, my knee was huge, but now it was getting to the point where I was waking up, my leg was just my whole leg. So I had that. So with that, I want to get back into, I'm not happy where I'm at. I'm not bad, but I'm not happy where I'm at because I know my potential. So where I want to be at now, I saw something that was so cool, and I watched a video of this guy. He has a channel called Obese to Beast. Is a guy, I keep calling him a kid because I'm 50 years old. That's horrible, right? And I hated when people did it to me when I was that age. But he's in his 20s, and I think he lost about 180 pounds. And he has not, and as far as I could see and watch the videos, he right now has no desire or intentions of getting rid of his loose skin as a result of losing 180 pounds. And this young man has went from 180 pounds down to, I don't know what his weight is, but his physique is phenomenal. It's unbelievable. I've always been intrigued by very muscular bodies, whether it be man or woman. It just fascinates me, and I just think it's a beautiful thing. I don't think it's horrible for a woman to be muscular, by any means. So he actually did a physique, not a bodybuilding competition, a physique competition, and he had the loose skin. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to be in a 50 and over physique competition. So this whole journey that I've been talking about that I want to do is going to be my struggles and triumphs to get to where I could hopefully, somewhere along the way, enter a 50 plus physique competition somewhere. So, and I'll have videos about the things that, in my diet, perfecting my diet, and I generally watch what I eat, but I'm not going to tell you I'm 100%. But because I'm limited, one, right? Because I still have what I have in my left leg, right? I have to hold out as long as I can before I get a knee replacement in my left leg. I'm nowhere near the point of needing a knee replacement in my left leg. But I have my right leg, and I'm limited. Like, if I shake my leg, it sounds like two metal balls clicking together because it's metal in my leg, And so I can't bend my leg all the way back. My leg does not bend like somebody who doesn't have a knee replacement. It bends only so far. So I have that obstacle. Plus, I have to be careful. I can't take supplements. If I take supplements, I have to be very careful what I take because I only have one kidney. And I'm very limited, like painkillers. Or I should say, I can't take like an Advil or a Motrin. I can only have Tylenols, So medications, I have high blood pressure. I want to be off my high blood pressure medication. That is another goal that I have in this whole process, is getting off my high blood pressure medication. I don't have high blood pressure medication. What I have is spiking blood pressure. So I take 2 types of blood pressure medication. So I have to be, not only to train or to get to where I need to be, and I can lose a few pounds too. I pretty much average out 140, 145 pounds. I think I might be a little less, but I think I'm about between 140, 145 pounds now. So I can stand to lose some weight. But because of my diet restrictions, because I only have 1 kidney, right? I have acid reflux, so I have to be careful with that, but I deal with that. But it's really the 1 kidney. I only got 1 left, so I have to be very careful of what I ingest supplement-wise or anything like that. The only supplements I take 4 different medications that they call maintenance drugs. The only other 2 things I take are Ester C, right? I can't take vitamin C. I take Ester C, and I also take magnesium, because I take a pill, a very strong pill for the acid reflux. I've been taking it for years, which the doctor wants me to get off of because it's not good for my kidney. It causes magnesium deficiency, and I was getting symptoms a couple of years ago, and it wound up being that I went to a neurologist, and it wound up being that it was my magnesium that was low. So simple magnesium tablets I take over the counter. So those are the only 2 supplements. The only type of a protein that I'll use in my shakes and smoothies is Isoburn. It has no caffeine in it and no stimulants in it. I've, in the years, have tried many different things. So that's it. I'll save that stuff for another video. But just to give you an idea of where I'm at, where I want to be, my goal is eventually I want to be able to be in enough shape that I can enter a 50+ physique competition. And take you along my journey with that. So with that, I made this video way too long. I'm going to figure out how to maybe edit it. I might just put it raw like this. I think that's what I might do, because I don't know how to edit too much anyhow yet. So, what I'm going to say is, leave comments, ask me questions, and maybe you'll have some advice for me. Okay? So all I'm going to ask you is to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and come with me along my journey, and then you'll meet some interesting people, because I have a very interesting family, and I know they have some stories, and they have some journeys of their own that they want to share with everybody. Okay? So thanks a lot, everybody. I'm looking forward to you coming along with me on this journey. Hopefully I will get to where I want to be. And thank you, and keep following me. All right? Have a great night.